Intellectual stew. Oh, we're cooking something true.
Marriage for him is like making mashed potatoes.
Intellectual stew. Real raw and relevant for you. With James Kirklin guiding through the deep, the light,
Let me ask you
the old, the new. Intellectual stew. Yeah, we're stirring up the view. Intellectual stew. Oh, we're cooking something true. Intellectual stew. Real raw and relevant for you. With James Kirklin guiding through the deep, the light, the old, the new. Intellectual stew. Yeah, we're stirring up the view. Intellectual stew. Oh, we're cooking something true. Intellectual stew. Real raw and relevant for you. With James Kirklin guiding through the deep, the light, the old, the new. Intellectual stew. Yeah, we're stirring up the view.
All right, what's up? What it do? Time for another episode of the Intellectual Stew with yours truly, James Kirklin, and I've come tonight to make your acquaintance once more and again, as we say in the church. But I'm trying to share this with a few people, so give me a few moments because a lot of people don't know that we're on, and because they don't know that we're on, they won't jump on. So give me a couple of minutes to share this if you don't mind. And as you come in, let somebody know that we're on. Let somebody know that we're on. Give me just a couple of more minutes because I did tell a couple of people at work I was going to share it with them. So let me put this out there real fast, y'all, and then we're going to get on with the show tonight. I haven't done a show in a couple of weeks, and I wasn't going to do one tonight, but I couldn't sit still. I got antsy. I wanted to come on and talk to my people, even if they don't jump on live right now, even if they catch the replay, whatever. I just wanted to make sure I jumped on here for a few moments, and chatted with you all. Talked a little bit. I got some stuff that's like kind of been on my mind lately, and because it's been on my mind, I am compelled to share it. And I'm hoping, praying, believing that as I share it, then some of you all will, kind of identify. And if things go right, then it'll save you from a lot of the mistakes that I've made. And even more so beyond just saving you from the mistakes that I've made. Some of you might not want to admit it because you feel like you're by yourself, but you might be in a similar position as I am or that I have been. And if we come together in this common space tonight, right, we come in this common space and have a conversation and share experiences, right? You know, because this is a safe space. This is a space you can come and share your convictions. Try to we definitely try to be respectful. I've probably been too respectful over the years. Who knows? But try to be respectful, and I'm going to continue to do that because you know we're trying to go somewhere. And you've seen me over the years. If you followed me for any length of time, you know that my hashtag is what? My hashtag is on the path to better. That's my mantra. My mantra has been that I am and will continue. I'm trying to let this camera up a little bit. I am and will continue to be on the path to better because everybody wants a better life, but very few people stop long enough to define what better actually means. And so let me say that before you can pursue better, you have to define better. You have to be determined to get to a place called better. And before that, then you need to develop it and discover it. And this message tonight, like I said, this one was kind of hitting heavy on me. I'm hoping a few more people will jump in. So as you come in tonight, do me a favor, share this and let people know that we are on. But because if you almost didn't tune in tonight, I'm probably talking to you. I'm probably talking to you because we're in a strange. If you're like me, Kim, I'm kind of like in a strange place. you know, Sometimes I can't even explain why I'm tired. You know, you go to bed, sleep all night long, wake up tired. But the thing is, you're not just tired physically. You're tired of starting over, tired of comparing yourself, tired of wondering if you missed your moment, tired of watching everybody else's highlight reel while you're having to survive your behind the scenes footage. I don't know, maybe if that's you, that maybe that's why you're here, because tonight we're going to do something different. It's not only about success, but tonight is about better. And maybe better has been waiting on you longer than you've been waiting on it. So tonight, what I want to do is I want to welcome everyone, because tonight isn't a motivational speech. It isn't therapy. It isn't church. But tonight, the mirror is going to be more than furniture. We're going to tonight's going to be a mirror. And as I start this tonight, I just want to ask one question. Here's the question. The question is, what does better look like to you? Because a lot of us don't really want to define better, right? But if we don't define better, guess what? Culture will define it for us. Right? Your family is going to answer it for you. They're going to define better for you. Social media, you'll see the people in their cars and in their clothes and in their cribs, and you'll think that that's what better looks like. If you don't define it yourself, your ex will answer it. And you know what the worst one that answered? Your disappointment. Your disappointment will answer it. So the first thing we want to do is we want to define better, because better is relative. Better is personal. And the thing is, everybody is chasing better, but the sad reality is most people are chasing someone else's version of better. Because see, some people define better as money. Some people define better as peace. Some define it as freedom. Some define it as finally being able to sleep through the night. But before asking, how do I get better? So that's right. Better looks better, different for everyone. So now that we've established that better looks different for everyone, at some point, you've got to make peace with the fact that staying where you are has become more painful than changing. Can we talk for a moment? Because now here's something that we've settled on that's very important. Before you can chase better, you got to define better. All right? Because if you don't define it, somebody else will. Society will define it for you. Social media will define it for you. Your family will define it for you. Even your failures will define it. But here is the problem. Knowing what better looks like doesn't automatically move you towards better. Does that make sense? I mean, you might know better. You might know what better looks like. But have you made the necessary steps? Have you made the changes? Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Have you, knowing that something needs to change, right? But because I know a lot of people that know something is wrong, but will continue to function in dysfunction. Y'all don't know nobody like that, do you? They'll continue to function in dysfunction because they know what it looks like, but they haven't made the steps. So most of us don't struggle because we don't know what to do. You know why we struggle? Because we haven't decided what we're willing to do. And that's where we have to be determined, right? That's where we really have to be determined. Not only do we define what better looks like, but we have to be determined to do better. What does that mean? We have to decide. We have to decide that we're not staying here. And whatever your here is, because there's a difference between wanting better and being determined to do better. Because everybody wants a better marriage. Everybody wants a better relationship. Everybody wants more finances. Everybody wants better health. Everybody wants more peace. Everybody wants a better future. But wanting, that doesn't move you. You can want all you want, but until you take the necessary steps, until you put together the right or the necessary action plan, you're going to stay stuck. But so wanting doesn't move you, determination does. Determination is the moment when your excuses, here it is, here it is, here it is. Determination is the moment when your excuses lose their authority. Because a lot of us have given our excuses authority to have full reign in our lives. Can anybody relate to that? Huh? Real talk. Have you allowed your excuses to have full reign? You know, let your back get up against the wall long enough. Absolutely. But the sad reality is we don't, some of us don't want to act until we've gotten our backs against the wall. Some of us don't want to move. We love playing from a position of defense instead of operating from a position of offense, right? And operating from a position of offense is literally just having a plan. I mean, just as simple as having a plan, right? And then with the plan, putting together action steps, and then putting together action steps, and then marking milestones. And then every time you reach a milestone, you mark it and you celebrate. And then you use that as a plateau to move to the next level. See, a lot of us, we don't do that. We wait until it's time to react. Does that make sense? But if we operated from a position of offense, if we put together a plan, if we put together a budget, and our Lord knows that was one of my weaknesses. Ugh, ugh. When I say that was one of my weaknesses, that was one of my biggest weaknesses. I love to play from the hip. I always knew exactly where I was. I knew I could always count, but it should have got to a point where I couldn't. I'm being facetious a little bit. A little bit. But a little bit. Yeah, budget. That's the B word. I thought you was cussing a minute for a second there. Yeah, but if we planned better, but Kim, let us find out that the group wants to go on a trip. Man, people will put back their coins and start eating salad. Well, not salads right now, not with cyclospora or whatever it is going around, but they'll start taking peanut butter sandwiches to work and all kind of things, because they have a reason instead of having a plan saying, you know what, I want better. And I'm knowing that retirement's going to come one day. And since I know that retirement's coming one day, then I better start putting together a plan now, an action plan. I can't just depend on the 401k. I got to put together a universal. So many things I can put together and to be prepared for when that time comes. But most of us react because we give our excuses authority in our life. You know what? But once determination takes over, it's when we stop saying one day and we say today. That's when we stop saying one day and we say today. It's when our desire becomes a decision. See, life doesn't change because we receive more information. Most of us already know enough to take it to the next step. I mean, if the truth be told, we know we should forgive. We know we should save money. We know we should apply. We know we should apologize. We know we should start. Information has never been the problem. Indecision is. It's us failing to make a decision. Watch this. Some of us, and myself included, let me raise both hands because I know my weaknesses. I ain't gonna lie, and I've learned to recognize my weaknesses, because it's all about accountability, right? When you start to be accountable for where you are in life, your socioeconomic status, for everything going on in your life, when you start to take accountability, you realize, and when we realize that you are where you are, and you're 100% there, but based on your decisions, right? And some of us, the truth of the matter is, we've been standing on the edge of better for years, not because we lack ability. Not because we don't have the know-how. We certainly have the know-how. We're not standing on the edge of better because we lack wisdom, excuse me, not because we lack knowledge. I mean, we got access now, man. We can chat GPT it, we can Claude it, we can Google it, we can do all. I mean, we can put together any type of budget, any type of plan. It's not because we don't have information. The problem is we've been operating in indecision. And the problem is also we lack resolve. Yep. That's what it boils down to. Many of us lack resolve at some point. Y'all come talk to me for a minute. I'm gonna turn the phone on. I forgot to put the phone on. I forgot to put the phone on. And if anybody wants to come on camera with me, you're welcome to do so. But let me put this phone on. Hold on. Hold on, shorty. There it is. All right, let me close that one out. Let me come back over here. All right, yeah. So I'm back now. All right. So at some point, you got to make peace with the fact that staying where you are has become more painful than changing. Got to. Because if you continue to go with with what you know, you always end up where you were. And if you always end up where you were, how are you going to get where you're supposed to be? Huh? How are you going to get where you're supposed to be if you always continue to go with what you know? But determination says, I'm tired of making excuses that comfort me but never change me. It says, I might not know every step, but I know that I can't stay here. Determination says, I refuse to let fear make decisions that belong to faith. What's up, Kendall? I refuse, hear me well. I refuse to make decisions that belong to faith. Here's what I've learned. You don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to become the kind of person who keeps taking the next step. See, that's kind of like faith, right? Faith leaping into the unknown with only God as your basis. You don't know how things are going to work out, but determination says that if I stay in it, things are going to work out. Right? Because better isn't waiting on the perfect conditions. Better is waiting on, my camera want to act up. Better is waiting on a committed decision. And the beautiful thing about determine is this. You don't have to feel motivated every day. Mm-mm. You just have to keep on motivated. You don't have to be motivated every day, but you do have to keep on deciding every day. Because once you've made the decision, then the question becomes, now what? You hear me? Once you have made the decision, that's right, focus on the steps right in front of you. Once you've made the decision, now it's time to start moving forward. Time to start moving forward. Now you start, now you say, now what? Because determination without discipline is frustration. Because you'll be determined. You'll know I'm supposed to be there. I see myself this way, but you don't have a plan. I'm my personal testimony. I can't speak for nobody else. Sometimes with a prophetic eye, right? You can see the end. You'll be standing in your now, right? And you'll be looking at next because you can see the end, right? You see the product, but you don't always see the process. And the process is a direct result of discipline. I can tell you like this, and Cash Foster is on here right now. That's my boy. There are so many things that I used to say that are things that I would allow to limit me because I said I didn't know how. Or I said I didn't have the money to pay a certain person or whatever. And so I would probably get by with less knowing that I needed more or get by with less quality. And then eventually, a lot of the stuff that I didn't know, I started to learn. And you know what fueled my learning? Determination. And that determination turned into discipline. Right now, man, anytime you see me, if I'm at home, most times I got a laptop in my lap. And I'm building something with AI. And when the stuff that I'm building like whole systems, right? I mean, complete systems. I got a system for churches. I got a system to help pastors strengthen their sermons. I have a dashboard that I built that has a super admin portal, admin portal. I mean, I'm doing all these things and I've never been a techie. But the thing that keeps me doing it is determination. If you're in a place that's not where you think that you should be or where you deserve to be, the thing that's going to move you once you define what better looks like is determination. Determination. But determination without discipline becomes frustration. Remember that. Determination without discipline becomes frustration. A decision can change your direction. Listen, hear me well. Hear me when I talk to you tonight. A decision can change your direction, but your daily habits determine whether you ever arrive. Let me give you an example. I've told this story before, but I want to tell it again. When I was during my separation, when I got before my divorce, during my separation, I moved out of my house, moved into my apartment. Next day went to work, got fired. Said I wasn't gonna work for anybody for said I wasn't gonna work for anybody that had the power to fire me again. That's how hurt I was. I was making crazy decisions, but I said I wasn't gonna work for them and didn't do it for 6, 7 years. I barely worked for anybody. And for a lot of those years, I made really good money. I made full-time money. Doing part-time work. God blessed me tremendously. And I heard God speak to me one time, and he said, you're not going to get wealthy by going to work. You're going to get wealthy by the things you do on your day off. I hope that catches. I hope that catches for somebody. He said, you're not going to get wealthy by the things you do by going to work. You're going to get wealthy by the things you do. And there would be sometimes I would work 2 weekends a month, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and make $6, $8, $10,000. So they give me 2 weeks off. And most times I would just sit at home, stuck on that couch, not doing anything, not calling and making trying to cold calling, trying to sell insurance. I didn't know AI then, so I couldn't build back then. But most times I rested until it was time to go back to work again. You know what I lack? Determination. But now I go to work, and when I come home, I eat, turn on my Country Wayne videos, plug up my laptop, put my laptop in my lap, and I just start building. Last week, I've been working on a sermon coach hub for pastors to help them strengthen their sermons. I mean, don't write for them, but it takes the text and crazy stuff that I'm building. And a year ago, 2 years ago, I wouldn't have known anything how to do this thing but determination. Because I know where I saw myself in my future. And I had to find something that would get me there. Trust me, I'm on the path to better. In a few more days, I got my first subscription, my first subscriber today. He signed up I just put it out today. And I haven't even made it really available to the public like that, but got my first subscription on because what I'm building are subscription-based businesses. I got subscription-based business for the churches that Sister Clark. Have a subscription-based business for preachers, sermoncoachhub.com. I have a subscription-based business for those who are going through divorce, mainly for women. I mean, but I never would have built these things if it wasn't for determination. If I didn't make a decision to change my mind, that would ultimately change my direction. When I joined the group that I'm a part of, and I appreciate finding this group, and I told them that I wasn't techie. What they told me was, in order to be successful, you just got to change the way you think. And I know that sounds that's easier said than done, but you can change the way you think. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. You change your way of thinking, your attitude will change your attitude, your altitude, but your daily habits will have to determine if you ever arrive to the place called better. And let's talk about how better is built. Because better is not built Hear me now. Hear me when I say this. Better is not built overnight. I had to learn that. It's not. Better is not built all at once, but it's built one decision, one habit, and one day at a time. But you have to make a decision that you want better. So here's the question. Here's the question. Here's the question. What does better mean to me? That's what I want you to ask yourself. What does better mean to me? Harvard researchers found that people who clearly define and write down specific goals are significantly more likely to accomplish them than people with only vague intentions. Does that make sense? In other words, people who write down their goals have a better chance at succeeding than those who just have vague intentions. I'm guilty. Ugh. Ouch. They're talking about me because I've always had good intentions. I mean, I was talking on the phone to somebody last night, and I had the phone on. I mean, I was talking to them on the phone, had the laptop in my hand, on my lap. I had uh, the TV on, and all these things were going on simultaneously. And I had good intentions, but there's no way I could really give all the attention necessary if I'm dividing myself. Does that make sense? But if you have a clear goal, a clear plan, and see, the reason I talked about that earlier about the goals and the plans is because if you have action plans, say you have action plan 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's going to take all these steps in the plan to accomplish this goal, right? You can mark off each step. Does that make sense? And when you mark off step 1, did it. Mark off step 2, did it. Mark off step 3, faith increases, right? Because every time you go a step further, what you do is you fertilize your faith because you realize that every step closer to your goal shows you that it's possible. Does that make sense? And so determination keeps you in it, but then you have to develop better. You have to develop better. And when you start talking about developing better, listen, dissatisfaction, please hear me. Dissatisfaction is not your enemy. Yeah, because see, a lot of us will think that better is a destination, but better is not a destination. It's a direction. And as long as you think it's a destination and you have not reached the destination that you were trying to reach, you will be dissatisfied thinking that you have not accomplished what you've not set out to accomplish. But here's the problem. Dissatisfaction is not your enemy. Sometimes we think dissatisfaction means failure. No, that's not what dissatisfaction means. Dissatisfaction is information. It tells you something needs to grow. Whenever you feel dissatisfaction, it's letting you know that that is an area that you have to grow in. Oh, I hope y'all didn't think y'all were gonna lose me that easy. I hope. Let me make sure my sound is coming back. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I got my sound. I'm good. Okay, cool. I'm gonna finish this tonight, y'all. I'm gonna finish this. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. I apologize. I apologize. I hit something on the computer and it locked it and it went down on me. But listen, dissatisfaction is not your enemy. Dissatisfaction is information. What dissatisfaction tells you is that something needs to grow. And when you feel it, don't numb it, but listen to it. See, that's what a lot of us do. We medicate, self-medicate, because when we feel dissatisfied, we don't like the pressure of feeling dissatisfied. But we need to learn how to listen to it. Many psychologists describe healthy dissatisfaction as a driver of creativity and long-term achievement rather than simply a negative emotion. See, what it's saying is that the discomfort can become the catalyst for meaningful change. One honest decision. Forget waking up at 5 a.m. That's not going to do it. Forget becoming perfect overnight. Better starts with one honest decision. Today, tomorrow, and repeat, because character earns compound interest. Hear me? Character earns compound interest. Neuroplasticity research continues to show that the brain remains capable of forming new habits and adapting throughout adulthood. Change isn't just reserved for the young. I know we say that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but a new human can, old human can learn. That's neuroplasticity. If you introduce something new to someone else and they repeat it over and over again, they can change. So what that tells me is you're not too old. You are not too late. And that brings me to something I think too many people believe. They believe that they're late. But can I tell you something? Late doesn't mean lost. Right? Because at that point, you discover better. And once you discover better, because you defined it, you're determined to reach it, you're learning how to develop it, and now you discover it because you realize that late isn't lost. You're not too late. Right now, like I said, I'm building these subscription-based businesses, and I feel like I'm on a 10-year run. I'm learning that one of my friends told me something that blew my mind. Animation is one of the up and coming things, right? And it's going to be like a $600 billion industry by 2030. And imagine if you learn how to work and operate and make movement on the screen with animation to help move messages and all these things, and you start to get clients and you get a percentage, a small, if you got 0.0001% of $600 billion, you can be a millionaire. AI is huge right now, and if I could just get a small smidget percentage of the population and get clients, I can. So my point is, you're not too late, and late isn't lost, because see, culture worships youth, but God develops over time, right? I mean, think the finest wine has been aged over time. Some of us think that because we're older, or that we might have missed our moment, or we waited too late, or we waited too late to start preparing for retirement. So we don't think we're going to have a good retirement, and we're haven't done this, haven't done that. No, that the average first-time entrepreneur is around middle age, not in their 20s. Many successful founders launch their biggest ventures later in life. So stay in it. Stay in it. Don't give up. Don't give up. You don't have to stay stuck. If you need to change, if that's not working for you, if that's not suiting you, if it's not granting you the gratification that you need. I got fired from a job. Whoopsie-doo. Was online. Watched my coach, Derek Harper, let me drop his name. Watched him build an AI agent, had it making phone calls and setting appointments and making doing sales and everything else. And I'm watching this, and he's like, I could teach you how to do it. I'm like, whoa, I want to learn how to do that. And I didn't have the money, but I figured it out. And I made my money back on my first sale. I built a website for someone, and the invoice was $4,500. He paid me $2,000 up front to build it. And that's just the beginning. But he also taught us about building white label businesses and duplication. And so I started building these businesses, and today I got my first subscription. That's the first of thousands, prayerfully. If y'all pray with me, if y'all pray church, it'll happen. But a lot of people were older. Anthony, I'm about to go on a 10-year run. A 10-year run. And I promise you, I'm going to be all right. And I'm going to experience many beaches. Somebody asked me a question. What's up, brother? What's up, Simp? Somebody asked me a question. I went out the other night with a friend of mine. And while we were at dinner, they said, when was your last vacation? And I said, and I thought about it. I really can't remember the last vacation I went on. I remember a lot of things I would do with my children, but most of that was sports related because it was in the summertime. We would have to go to different destinations for baseball. But you know what? These next 10, I'm getting ready to live because I know what better looks like. And not only do I, like I said earlier, it does us no good to know what better looks like if we're not going to make a decision to move towards it. I'm in a space now where I'm trying to move towards better. Got to discover it. Let's talk about who are some older people who discovered better later in life. Vera Wang, Samuel L. Jackson, Julia Childs, Morgan Freeman. Their greatest chapters didn't come until they were over 40 years of age. So why have you buried yourself because you're over 40? Why have you stopped the creative learning process? I mean, I've been preaching since I was 21 years old. Yep, 32 years. I just turned 54, but I'll be 50. It's been 32 years. Been preaching 32 years. 20 of those years I was married. Never thought I would get a divorce, but got one, and I deserved it, no doubt, based on the things that I had done. I deserved it, but had to survive that, to survive the court of public opinion, stayed stuck on the couch, wrote a book about it. Had to rebuild, still am rebuilding. I've sold cars. I've been an entrepreneur. I've built Sister Clark. I've built the Sermon Coach Hub. I've built the Intellectual Stew. But none of that was linear. I hope that makes sense. Because every one of those things that I did, even though I had knowledge of it and kept doing it, none of it was linear, but every detour prepared me for something. I picked up something every step of the way, right? I used to, I heard Paul Morton say a long time ago that Jesus could look at a tree and see a chair. And what that taught me was how to look at the potential of a thing. So I've always been able to stand in now and look at next. right? I can always stand in now and look at not yet, but somewhere between where I am and where I needed to be was where I was. And in order to get to the product, I had to get to the process. And I didn't know how to do the process until I learned. And the learning came on the heels of determination. Listen, it's not too late to reinvent yourself. It's not too late to reinvest in yourself. It's you know what, you know what, you know what, you know what, you know what. Most successful businesses, they peak and then at a certain point they plateau, right? They'll peak and then they plateau. But Charles Sigmund said in strategic planning, he said before it plateaus, you grow in another direction. That's why they call that the sigmoid curve. They call that the sigmoid curve. Before you plateau, you grow in another direction. Some of us have been doing the same thing for 30, 40, 50 years. You could do it in your sleep. You really can. You really can. You could do it in your sleep with your eyes closed because it's nothing more than a routine for you. And that's okay. And that's okay. But before you plateau, what if you had started another little business on the side, right? Because you don't even need the money for the business on the side. But what if you just started a little business on the side and you saved 100% of the proceeds and you did that for 5 years and you invested that money properly or you used it, for something that would better your life? It's never too late. But the thing is, you have to take, here it is, here it is, here it is. You have to take the lessons that life lends, because life does lend lessons. You have to consider the clues. And once you consider the clues, it'll help you make a decision to move towards better. You know what's wrong? So many of us, and I can tell you this because I've gone through it myself and I'm just really coming out of it, thank God. Because I told you I was stuck on the couch, but I never told you I was stuck in the bedroom, in the room, because I've had my moments. But so many of us, we suffer from identity foreclosure. So many of us suffer from identity foreclosure. So many people stopped becoming. You know why? Because somebody told them who they were. So many people stopped becoming because somebody else told them. They allowed somebody else to define them. Somebody said you are just a failure. You're divorced. Somebody told you that you're too old. You're not educated enough, not connected enough. And somewhere along the way, you accepted that verdict. But I need you to understand. I need you to hear me. Don't confuse who you've been with who you're becoming. And that's why I want to talk to the person who's exhausted. I want to talk to the one who is afraid to start over, the one that's ashamed, the person watching everybody else pass them by. I've been there. I want you to know you're not behind, you're becoming. And whatever you do, don't rush your becoming. Gallup, from Gallup's polls, they do a lot of company that does research. Gallup has consistently found that a large percentage of people report feeling disengaged in their daily lives. So if you feel stuck or you felt stuck, you're not alone. But here's the overriding factor. You don't have to stay there. Just because you're stuck doesn't mean you have to stay stuck. And here's what I want you to do tonight, not tomorrow, but if you're listening, if you catch this, even if you're watching, whenever you hear this, I want you to do this right in that moment. Write one sentence. And that one sentence, I want you to say, my version of better is, and then write it down. Not your mother's version of better, not your pastor's version of better, not the version that social media has defined for you, but I want you to write down your version of better. My version of better is. Because, beloved, hear me and hear me well. I'm closing. Hear me and hear me well. If you can't define it, you'll never recognize it when you find it. Huh? If you can't define what your version of better is, if you can't define it, you'll never find it. You'll never recognize it when it can be standing right in your face, staring you right in your face, and you won't be able to recognize better even though it's looking at you. Yep. So remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this. Better isn't a distraction. Better is a direction. So you keep moving. You hear me? Keep moving, because every day you're on the path to better. Remember this, the world is changing. My question for you is this: why do you remain the same? Good night, and I'll see you soon.
Intellectual stew. Oh, we're cooking something true.
Marriage for him is like making mashed potatoes.
Intellectual stew. Real raw and relevant for you. With James Kirklin guiding through the deep, the light,
Let me ask you
the old, the new. Intellectual stew. Yeah, we're stirring up the view.